Hello, everybody. Welcome to Smith's Grove's Sanatorium Radio, where we review horror movies. I am Zoe.
I'm Gabby.
And here we go. Bear with us. This is going to be our first podcast episode, so it's probably going to sound horrible and be just complete, utter shit, but here we go.
Wow, no faith in us.
Oh, I have faith in us to fuck this up, but here we go. Alright, so today we are reviewing our first movie, which is The Hitcher. And I'm not talking about the original, I'm talking about the remake from 2007, directed by Dave Meyers, who only directed one other movie.
Is his last name actually Myers?
Yeah, it's Myers.
I want that last name, I'm so jealous.
But it's not like Michael Myers. It's
is it spelled different?
It's like Oscar Mayer Wiener.
Okay, never mind.
Alright, so we got The Hitcher here. So it starts off here with that long-haired kid. I forget his fucking name.
He looks like a buffed up Shaggy.
Yeah. Jim. All right, we start Jim here. He's sitting in a car waiting for his girlfriend, played by the, I guess, beautiful Sophia Bush from One Tree Hill.
Are you calling her ugly?
No.
I thought she was pretty nice.
I mean, she was just really hot, like, in her time. I'm not saying she's not hot anymore, because I haven't seen any recent photos or whatever, but like during this time, she was like a big thing. Like John Tucker Must Die and all that shit, you know? So, yeah, he's picking up for college, and I guess they're going on a trip to Lake Havasu, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. To meet her friends.
Make
it official.
Yeah, I guess, like, I don't think he's ever met her friends or whatever, so, but yeah, I mean, that's how it starts, and, you know, we have obviously the
antagonist shows up pretty soon, like pretty quickly in the movie, right?
Yeah, it's pretty quick. Like before that, we of course we have the Move Along song by All American Rejects has to play in the background while she's like trying to debate that she doesn't need to pee already, even though they've been in the car like 3 fucking minutes.
I forgot about that. Like the whole fucking song plays for that.
Oh, and also not to mention, in the very beginning, during the credits, we have a horrible CGI rabbit, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it like goes through the grass. Oh my god.
Yeah, it just gets fucking picked off by a car for no fucking reason. I mean,
yeah. Oh, by the way, in case that wasn't extremely evident, this whole podcast is nothing but spoilers. Just so you know. So if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to go watch it real quick.
Yeah, that's definitely true. This is not a spoiler-free podcast. I mean, I would think most people are probably smart enough to think a podcast like this would be not spoiler-free, but let's just clarify that right now just to make sure we're all down. All right, but yeah, so they're on their way, right? Move Along, All American Rejects. Has to pee in restaurant bathroom. Out of nowhere, it's fucking pouring raining. It would look clear skies earlier, but whatever, you know. And out of nowhere, they see this man standing on the road with his car outside, and he didn't see it, like, so he, like, swerves. Of course, you know, he did his first full 360. And spins around, and the guy Jim is wanting to help him out, you know, go see if he's okay. While Sophia Bush's character, what's her name? Grace, is
doesn't want to pick up a random strange dude in the middle of nowhere, which as a woman, fair, in my opinion.
It's fair, but at the same time, he wasn't even, like, I don't know, Jim didn't even say that he wanted to pick the dude up. He just said, I want to go and see if he's okay, you know? So, like, that's the least thing you could do, but he's standing in the middle of the fucking road, so he didn't even move.
He could have been a serial killer, and once we get further in the movie, we find out that Grace, pretty smart girl, huh?
She's smart, I guess. I mean,
I guess.
So, but yeah, all right. And so after that, you know, she's all like, no, just leave or whatever. And then he's like walking up to the car, and there's like a suspense, like thrill moment because like the car's not fucking starting.
Yeah.
And the Hitcher's getting closer, and then kicks it and drives off. And by the way, I guess since this is a road trip movie and a car movie somewhat, there has to be like a badass Oldsmobile 442 in it. But yeah, so they end up driving down the highway, And then they stop at this gas station where this fucking hit clerk, is just saying a bunch of bullshit. I mean, what is it? Something about...
it's my favorite line. I'm sure that's what you're about to say. Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, go say it.
But you can't milk a fucking donkey, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. He's sitting there talking. He's talking, well, at first he's saying, all like, it's the car, right? It's like, Oldsmobile 442, that's a bad fucking ride. Must be a regular pussy wagon. Just trying to be, like, this vulgar fucking person.
Oh, he's an asshole.
Yeah. And then he's all like, and then he's like, yeah, I'm working on a Camaro or whatever, He's like, it's my backyard. He's like, we have some donkeys in my backyard. And didn't he get kicked by a donkey or whatever? And that's why he got a lazy eye? Something.
Yeah, he's
like
got
that.
a lazy eye because he tried to milk the fucking donkey and it kicked him.
And, you can't milk a fucking donkey.
No one's saying.
You know what I'm saying? And Jimmy was just standing there just, like, in shock of, like, what he just heard. And just like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Grace went to the restroom. Jim goes outside to fuel up the car, and then guess who shows up? The random dude on the side of the fucking road.
The Hitcher. He apparently got a ride from a semi driver.
Yeah.
And even though we never got a good look at him in the rain, once he hops out of that car, you can, like, Jim knows it's him. Like, it's kind of weird how that scene went down. He just knew.
Yeah, I mean, we somewhat got a good look at the Hitcher because after he speeds away, it zooms in on the Hitcher, and we see that it's Sean Bean from Lord of the Rings. Boromir. Hey, look at that.
But Jim never saw that.
But yeah, Jim never saw that, so it's kind of fucking weird how he knew that was the Hitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. At the same time, they're in the middle of nowhere, so what's the odds that there would have been another Hitcher? But, I mean, who knows? It's whatever. But, So he shows up, right? And he's trying to get a tow, but, the tow truck is gone because the dude won't be back until 7, and...
It's like the middle of the night already.
Yeah, it's like the middle of the night. And then the hit clerk is like, hey, I bet this is the guy you were talking about earlier, because earlier you happened to mention somewhat about the guy broken down on the road. And which forces him into a situation where... the Hitcher asks him for a ride, and he's like, yeah, I'll take you to the hotel. It's like 15 miles away from here. And Sophia Bush comes out, and she's all like, hey, how's it going? And, a little bit more dialogue, So, I mean, some of this dialogue doesn't even matter. So, but yeah, they end up taking for a ride. And... So, now we're in the car, and we're taking the Hitcher to a hotel. You have Jim in front, the Hitcher in the passenger, and Grace in the back. And she's, like, listening to headphones and shit, and she's feeling all creeped out by this dude, which rightfully so. I mean, the dude is acting kind of creepy the whole fucking time.
Yeah. And here, we learned the Hitcher's name. I forget it, but it's like
John Ryder.
Yeah, John Ryder. Isn't that like the name of a book series or something like that?
I think so. Sounds like a fucking book series. And he's talking about how he moves around a lot and he's in between jobs. And then he like does this weird like look back at Grace, trying to be fucking creepy as shit. And he's all like, what is it? Like, how long you been fucking her?
Yeah.
Which sets off, just this weird exchange of stuff and some tension. Then out of nowhere, the writer pulls out a fucking like knife, and it's like serrated edge, and he's like picking like dried blood off of it or some shit.
Yeah.
And it's just things start to get crazy because they're just talking like, oh, I'm gonna hurt you guys, and like there's nothing you can do about it. And Something about how he wants the one dude to say, "I want to die."
Yeah, what happens is, first of all, the writer, I guess we'll call him now, he breaks Jim's phone, which is a flip phone, so all he has to do is bend it the wrong way and it breaks.
This is back in the day when they were flip phones.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of our listeners are going to be old enough to remember flip phones, but...
Oh, don't say that.
I do remember flip phones.
Oh, my first phone was a flip phone. Anyways, so Grace pulls out her phone to try and call 911, and the Hitcher, of course, discovers it, reaches back and grabs her head to stop her and puts his knife to her eyeball.
Was it their eyeball or throat? I don't remember.
No, it was her eyeball. I remember because I have a thing about eyes. And he, tries to, dig it in her little, eyeball.
Then he's all like, Jim, all you have to say is, I want to die. And he says it exactly like that,
Yeah.
And then Jim's freaking out. Jim's starting to speed up the car, and then out of nowhere, breaks it, and freaking Hitcher slams his head into the fucking windshield, which cracks it a little bit, and Grace opens the side door, and he starts just trying to kick the dude out of there while he's simultaneously speeding even more up.
Yeah.
It makes kind of no sense, that whole exchange. And finally gets the Hitcher out, and and it turns out that Grace's phone, the only phone that was working, got thrown out with the Hitcher. So now they're on the road, all alone, no phones, and it's raining, and Jim's all like, I gotta take a nap. So he takes a nap, bada bing, bada boom, next day. All right.
Well, one of the jump scares, there's not too many jump scares in this movie, but one of the major ones that really got me was Jim pulled over, and he's fucking sleeping. And he wakes up, it's still the middle of the night, goes to take a drink of his energy drink, and somehow the fucking Hitcher caught up to them after driving hundreds of thousands of miles or whatever. That's an exaggeration.
Yeah, he smashes the fucking window and grabs Jim, and then he wakes up, and
Yeah, and then Jim fucking wakes up. I was so confused at first because I thought he actually caught up with him, but then nope. It was a dream. It was daytime.
He gets out and he sees Grace there, and she's all like, I'm so scared of the Hitcher and what we just went through, and if you would have just fucking listened to me.
Don't be making fun of her. If he would have just listened to her, they wouldn't be in this situation.
I know, but spoiler alert, whatever, she starts laying this guilt trip on Jim the whole fucking movie, and I think it's kind of bullshit. How was he supposed to know that this dude turned out to be a psycho killer? I know, coincidence that it turned out to be a psycho killer, but... She also, in this moment when it's daytime and they're talking to each other, she's like, I just want to go home. Let's just go home. And he convinces her to keep on going. This is the second time where if he would have listened to his woman, they would have been okay. Does he? Does he, Zoe? Well, I mean,
no, does he?
In order to go home, they would have to go back the same way of the Hitcher. So, you ever think
there
about
are
that?
Multiple highways. I'm sure they could have found a different route.
Well, this is back in the day where they didn't have GPS, so they had to rely on a fucking map. So, it'd been kind of hard to, map yourself back there,
I think
they don't seem that smart. They were barely using a map in the first place.
Well, he knew where they were going.
So I don't think they would know the other. And it doesn't fucking matter, okay? So, but yeah, she's all, and he's like, I just want to go home, and, he's all like, no, let's go to the lake with your friends, we're almost there, we'll pull off to a town, and we'll call the sheriff, and then they seem to be having a pretty nice day. They're all, waving their hands in the car, along the air and shit,
And for some reason... Again, I just now realized this. In what kind of car does he have?
Oldsmobile 442.
His 442 sporty car, whatever, cool looking thing. He's going really slow on the highway. And this fucking station wagon thing with a family starts passing them. And they see the cute kids and everything.
So this is 2007 or whatever I said. And I think it's kind of funny how, all right, so we have this old, like, 70s Oldsmobile 442. It's like a badass, souped up, muscle car. And then out of nowhere comes a station wagon from, like, the late 70s. And so I guess families are still driving station wagons from the 70s during this time. But, yeah, and, like, they're all singing. And, like, there's, like, a bumper sticker that says, honk if you love Jesus. It's like a whole fucking family. Yeah. And, like, they get around them. And then out of nowhere, there's, like, you see, like, this kid in the back. And then there's someone with, like, this big bear, like, playing around. And then, like, the bear gets removed. And you see that, it's John Ryder, the Hitcher, the psychopath, the killer. So, therefore, Jim and Grace start to freak out. They pull around.
Rightly so. There's 2 kids in the car.
It's true. Yeah, they pull around and they're just all like honking like, he's a fucking psychopath. He has a knife, And, but they're doing this like in the oncoming lane the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
You think that this nice Christian family would have pulled over, if something freaky like that was going on. But
I mean, and if you hear that the guy in the back of your car has a knife and is crazy with your child sitting next to them, no, they keep going full speed. And
then out of nowhere, a semi pops out of nowhere. They have to run the car off the road and they ruin this beautiful muscle car. And, but they survive.
They have to try and hitch their way.
They turn out to be the hitchers.
Yeah, to where they need to go.
And they're walking down the road, and I think it was Jim who decided to have a snarky comment towards Grace of like, no one picks up hitchhikers or strange people, remember? Or something like that,
Yeah. And, I mean, but true. I would, at least nowadays, I don't know, when did you say this movie was made?
2007.
Yeah, I don't even think back then people were picking up hitchers just because it was kind of dangerous.
Well, I'm pretty sure most places, most highways that like hitchhiking is actually illegal now. I mean, I'm not sure how enforced it is, but I know that there's not. I don't think there is a big hitching culture anymore like there was back in the day. Because this original movie came out in like early 80s. So people were still hitching around. People started going missing. Serial killers are killing, hitchers and stuff like that. But like nowadays, like it's not really a thing. I mean, I've seen people hitch before, but like, I don't know. Just like back in the day, it seemed like there was like a culture to it. Like there was like large groups of people throughout the United States were hitching.
It was a cheap way to get where you wanted to go.
And also like a lot of kids were running away from home and dropping acid with Charlie Manson and shit,
Wait, what? Holy cow.
All right, yeah, so, all right.
Anyway.
But, all right, so they're walking down the road, no one picking up them because obviously no one picks up strangers. And then they see that station wagon off to the right just parked, and they're like, oh, this is creepy. So Jim goes up to the car, and he sees that, like, the family is dead in the car.
Mm-hmm. First 4 deaths. He killed, like, the first thing you see is the little body of a kid all covered in blood in the back seat.
And he's like freaking out, kind of. And he's like saying, Grace, stay back. You don't want to see this, And he's walking around. And Grace, she obviously doesn't listen to him anymore because apparently he has horrible judgment.
Okay. So, spoiler alert, Zoe's not telling you right now. The father was still alive.
Well, no, I was about to get there. Okay.
Well, that's when she runs over, not when Jim says, don't come over here. She waits until she sees the father.
Well, she doesn't even see the father.
She does because he falls out of the car.
Sees the kid in the trunk. And then that's when he sees the father, and the father starts to move, so he opens the door.
You are wrong. Just so you know, you're wrong.
All right, whatever, we'll be
he
wrong.
He sees the father, and the father falls out of the car, and Grace runs over to see if she can help, and then she sees the kid and almost throws up.
I think she does throw up.
Does she actually throw up?
I think she throws up. I remember something. I remember vomit of some sort in this film.
There might have been a couple days in between watching the movie and actually recording this. But anyway, nonetheless, they see a bunch of dead bodies, except the father who's alive. So they all hop in the car. Because the Hitcher's not around. They don't see him at all.
No, the Hitcher is completely vanished.
Sorry. And they try and go find a hospital or something.
They stop off at this diner. he's like in there holding the wound, and he's like Grace, go call 911, and she runs in. She's like, I need you to call 911. There's an emergency, and of course some dumb waitress. I mean, I don't know.
She calls 911. To be fair,
she does, but like, why does it always seem in these horror films that they go to some random small town and some waitress and they're like, call 911? She's like, well, what's the problem? It's just kind of like, well, who cares what the fucking problem is? Call 911,
Plus, Grace has blood all over her, and she's trying to go grab napkins and stuff.
Well, she runs to the freaking bathroom to get, like, toilet paper and crap like that, And then, like, the waitress ends up calling 911, and then she sees, like... Oh, we forgot a part of that.
We did.
Yeah, while they were on their way with the station wagon, the Hitcher actually does show up in a red pickup truck. Starts ramming their car and like toying with them, and then he disappears.
Yeah.
So fast forward all the way, she's in the bathroom grabbing napkins. She looks out back and sees the red truck that the Hitcher was driving. So she freaks out and like gets down, and she's like in a fetal position, just kind of like scared, and like she locked the door, and she ends up coming out of the bathroom. And then that's where she gets a shotgun to the head or whatever. And it's a fucking cop or whatever. And they're arresting her. And then it goes over back to Jim. And he's in the car. And the father's taking his final breaths. And then
saying the Lord's Prayer and whatnot.
Yeah. And the cop pulls a gun on him and arrests him. And they're like, we got these two for murder. It's obvious. They got a dead body in their car. Stupid.
Just, cops being cops.
There's no investigation. They're basically just pure like, oh, well, these people obviously had a dead body in the car, so they obviously have to be the murderers. But whatever.
So they go to the police station. They lock Jim up in the basement in these crude looking cells, like it looks like Wild Wild West down there.
It's like some old ass cells. Like, I was a correction officer at one point, and I assume jails are very similar to the prisons, because they have like large like detention facilities and stuff like that. And all of the doors I ever encountered were all electronic at this point, not some fucking like big ass like keys on a loop,
Like, yeah, and then they take Grace to an interrogation room and try talking to her, and basically they're trying to make her confess, but she keeps telling the truth, talking about the Hitcher, and basically telling them they're stupid and they need to go find this guy because he killed a whole family and who knows what else he can do. Do they do that? No. Instead, what happens is the fat fucking cop doesn't like that the phone is ringing, so he gets up and leaves Grace alone in the room to see why no one's answering the phone.
Well, he's like, Marianne, are you going to get that?
Yeah. I know, the whole scene was just kind of humorous to me. Like, he's in the middle of a deep conversation and is... whatever. But... You
think that he wouldn't really care, and, like, you figure that people would get the phone because they just got a car with two people who had, like, 4 dead bodies in the car. You'd think, like, a quadruple murder would be a big priority, so this interrogation would mean a lot, But... He's obviously small-town cops. This is like in Arizona or New Mexico.
New
Mexico. And I mean, I've been through New Mexico before, and it seems like an alright area, But I don't remember cops wearing cowboy hats, but apparently that's a thing in New Mexico.
Oh my god, that's right, yeah.
So I mean, I guess that's still like that was kind of like the old West, still. So but whatever.
I don't know. A lot of pretty stereotypical things about cops happen in this movie.
But, alright, so long story short here, the whole precinct is, like, everybody that was there is dead now, because the Hitcher, the girl ends up getting the keys and a gun, and goes and unlocks Jim, and then they end up taking off as a bunch of whole cops swarm, and they're like, don't you think we should go back? And Jim's all like, they're not going to help us, so why should we go back? So they end up...
like walking, I don't know, maybe it was a couple miles away to this abandoned...
Jump scare comes in.
Yeah, to this abandoned little, I don't know, what was it? Like a junkyard of some sorts? To me, in my opinion, I could be wrong, I'm not the film student, but in my opinion, this whole scene that occurs next is kind of the prettiest part in the movie. Because they go in this old shed, and she leans out to look through this little hole. There's light coming through here. There's a spider web that's kind of glistening. And just the change of scenery is kind of pretty.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of pretty, but, I mean, at the same time, I don't think it was nothing spectacular. I mean, I think it did its job, because I think what they were trying to do is just, like, calm down the tension, you know? Trying to give you, like, some relief. That way, when, you know, these cops show up and, you know, tension gets higher again, you know, like, it breaks you, and then, like, boom, you know, like, lifts it right back up, you know? Mm-hmm. But, yeah, the cops show up.
One cop.
One cop. Yeah. Grayson's upholding the gun to the cop. Jim grabs the gun from the cop, and they're about to take this car. And she's trying to get the cop to get into the car, but for some reason, with a gun to his head, you know, he thinks that he can withstand a bullet, I guess. I don't know. Like, she has to ask him, like, 100 times. She's, like, crying, like, please get in the car, you know? But he's just in there, like, I'm a tough cop. I'm from New Mexico, you know? And then out of nowhere, gunshot to the head. Turns out the Hitcher, John, he's in, like, this old school bus, like, a little ways away with a sniper rifle. Just hits him directly in the head. But coincidence, there happens to be another cop coming up there and sees Grace holding the gun to the head, and out of nowhere a gunshot happens, and the cop is dead. So he's thinking that she is this big-ass murderer, you know, at this moment.
Yeah, but in my opinion, I know a little bit about guns, and the sound of a rifle compared to that handgun would have been different. She showed no sign of, like, moving to the recoil.
Yeah, it was like a Magnum, like, revolver, like a 45 or something she was holding in her fucking hand. That thing has kickback. And, like, I feel like that sounds way different than, like, a sniper rifle.
Yeah. But still, of course, obviously, she's the one that pulled the trigger. So. And
they immediately think they're the murderers, you know, but it's just kind of like, I feel like I mean, I don't know. I'm not a super big cop, you know. I'm not super into, like, bullet wounds. I don't know if you can, like, look at a bullet wound and be like, oh, well, that wasn't done by a 45. You know, that was obviously done by a 22. I don't know. I feel like some people can do that.
Well, I feel like she was, like, less than a foot away from his face, and if she actually pulled that gun on him, his face would have been gone.
There would have been blood on her.
Like, yeah. Anyway, so as all this is happening, we have this big baddie cop come to the scene back at the police station. Who's he played by? He's old Blue Eyes.
I'm trying to remember his name. Neil McDonough.
Neil McDonough. And he, by some kind of, I don't know, apparently he's supposed to be such a good cop, he just knows everything. But he can tell these kids did not commit any of these crimes.
Yeah.
But then once he finds out that one of his cops is dead, all of a sudden the kids did it.
He turns into a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And, like, so the cops are all on them. They're, like, zooming down the highway with this cop car, and there's, like, 5 cop cars behind them, and out of nowhere, a freaking helicopter comes out of nowhere. It's this big chase, you know? And they're all screaming on the phone, just like, stop firing! We're innocent! We didn't do anything! And they're like,
no.
And the cops all like, well, you stop up and we'll talk, you know? And they're like, we can't stop! He's back there! You'll kill us!
So they end up shooting out one of the tires in their car, but then they're getting reports of this other car, not a police car.
A black Trans Am.
With a big gold eagle on the front of it, zooming up behind them.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like a Trans Am, like, trademark.
Is it?
Eagle, yeah.
If it's not evident, I don't know shit about cars.
Yeah, it's like racing up, and then, like, this Closer by Nine Inch Nails starts to play, you know, and car's like zooming up, and he's like fucking just like ramming into the other cop cars, and like they're all flipping over. He's causing like big accidents. He is like apparently the greatest shot ever because he just like takes his handgun, like lifts it out of the fucking car, one shot straight to the head,
And the
crashes
helicopter
the fucking
comes
helicopter. Yeah.
I still don't believe that. Nope.
I mean, like I said, it's highly unlikely, but I bet it's possible if you're that great of a shot. But we haven't really got any backstory on the Hitcher to say that he would be that great of a shot.
No.
So, but yeah, that happens, and then he starts toying with the guys anymore, and then when the tires are completely out on the fucking cop car, it comes to a halt, and then he like leaves. He's just like toying with these fucking kids at this point.
So they, after all that and are traumatized even more, grab their handguns and start walking off into the distance and come across this little motel, and they sneak into a room that wasn't occupied, window was unlocked, and try and get some sleep.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of a lull. It's a lull in the movie right here.
Yeah, because like they show like this scene where like Sophia Bush is taking a shower. Obviously the obligated shower scene in a horror film, but you don't get to see anything, so
Nah.
whatever. Then Jim comes in there and they start kissing, and he's all like, "I'm gonna go find a payphone or some snacks or whatever the hell it was. I'll be right back."
Yeah.
And then it cuts to her sleeping in the bed.
She falls asleep to the movie The Birds.
Yeah,
one of my favorites.
Yeah, and she wakes up and it's that scene, the ending scene where all the birds are just everywhere and it's dark. It's I love The Birds. Alfred Hitchcock. It's a beautiful film. But she turns over and sees that they're her favorite Twinkies, or wait, no, it was
Ding dongs.
Ding dong. Her favorite processed food of ding dongs, and she's like, "Oh, Jim, you're here. I missed you." And then like, you see like this hand like going across her, and it looks like it's starting to touch her in her naughty places.
In her naughty places.
Well, I don't know what you're gonna call it. I don't want to get super graphic on this fucking podcast, and she's all like, "Oh, Jim,
Can you guys guess what happens next? Can you guess? You're not gonna guess. It's the Hitcher.
Are you horny, baby?" He says some shit like that. She's freaking out, and she like kicks him and like runs to the restroom and struggles to put the door, close the fucking door. But I'm just kind of like, just close the door, lady. I mean,
to be fair, he's fighting back.
It's true. He is pushing
He's a
on the
big
door,
guy.
but like I don't know. Like she had like the door was like she started to shut the door. It was like this close to being. Well, I guess you guys can't see it. It's pretty fucking close.
Like yeah.
Closing, and then he like cuts on it, and like it goes like wide open, and then she's like struggling. I'm just kind of like, I feel like at that close, you could have got that fucking closed pretty easy.
But then you see a smile come across his face through the crack in the door, and he lets it close.
Yes.
And she doesn't find anything suspicious about this. She just puts her boots on and gets ready to go.
She puts her clothes on because obviously, she's sleeping in her underwear because
it's the best way to sleep.
That's how you sleep, So, puts her boots on, her denim skirt, and she climbs out the window. And she
goes through the door, doesn't? Does she climb out the window? I thought she just opened the door.
Yeah, she opens the door. I'm thinking about a different movie at that point. Sorry.
It's okay.
Think of Vacancy. I think they climb out the window in that hotel. Whatever. All right.
Oh, that's a good movie, too. Okay, I'm sorry. Off track.
All right, so she gets out the door. She's looking for Jim. She's like, Jim, where are you? And
just waving the fucking gun for everyone to see. And, of course, someone calls the cops.
And you see this fucking, like a bunch of semis there, and you hear, like, one, like, kind of revving up slightly. And then, like, she sees Jim, and he's, like, tied to two different semis, like these chains, and she's trying to get it off, But she walks up to the cab of the truck in front, and guess who's there, And, yeah, it's the Hitcher.
So he invites her into the cab, and basically what he wants to do is if he takes his foot off the clutch, Jim is going to tear in two, or, But he wants to die. He wants Grace to kill her. She won't do it because if she kills him, she kills Jim. The police swarm them. It's all a big thing. They're telling her to put the gun down.
Put the gun down!
Because for some reason, with Jim tied up in the back and this maniac sitting in the cab, they still think she and Jim are the murderers.
Until the Hitcher gets fed up with everything, and he's like, "You fucking can't do it or whatever, and like takes the gun and sets it on the thing, and then he's all like, all right, here we go, and just kicks it into gear and fucking tears Jim right into two. This is like the most bloodiest part of the fucking movie.
Yeah, it's the most gruesome.
Which is really nice, but I mean, that sounds kind of messed up.
Yeah, I was about to say, what do you mean by nice?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Some horror films, I enjoy it to be kind of bloody, gory.
Oh, me too. So. Oh, me too. But this is the worst part of it. So if you're kind of like a newbie to horror movies, like you see a couple
honestly,
cuts and blood, but this is the worst part. So
honestly, if you're like new and like you need to get used to like seeing blood, like this is probably a decent movie to watch. If you want to really get into horror films, because there's not a lot in this film.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I keep getting off track. I'm sorry. I'm like through half a Red Bull right now. Let me see. So he rips Jim in two, and then I think we just kind of cut scenes back to the police station.
Yeah, it's just kind of blurs into like these fucking police lights and shit like that, and then out of nowhere you see John, the writer, the Hitcher, arrested at the police station, and that big baddie cop who knows everything walks in the room, so like, can't get anything off your fingerprints, or like you have no fingerprints or some shit like that.
Yeah, but this guy, we find out, well, eventually the cops figure it out that Grace had nothing to do with this, and the Hitcher has gone under many aliases and wanted for multiple crimes. So they lock him up. This is also something that doesn't really make sense to me, because I feel like in real life this would never happen. But correct me if I'm wrong, because you know more about this, though. They handcuff the Hitcher and put him in, the prison garb and everything, and they put him in the back of the truck with one guy sitting there and two guys in the front. And as they're loading him into the truck, they let the victim, Grace, they let them see each other.
Well, technically, I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't allow this to happen, but at the same time, we're talking about some small fucking town in New Mexico. So, and like, it's not like they were doing it on purpose. It's just like she was getting into the sheriff's car, the big baddie cop's car. At the same time, they were loading him into the prison van. So just across the parking lot. It's not like they were like right next to each other. It was just, it was a little far away. She notices that it was him, I mean, he doesn't even acknowledge her. So, I mean.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, I don't think it's not really protocol. I don't think that would actually happen. I mean, I was a corrections officer, so I don't know everything about law enforcement.
Right.
But I've seen things, the way they handle prisoners, stuff like that. And I've watched enough TV and read and listened to the last podcast, all the time. I feel like I know a little, but I mean, guaranteed I still don't know everything.
Right.
So, but I don't feel like that would happen, but, it's a small town in New Mexico, and guess what? This is not that great of a horror film. So, here we go. So they're on the road. They're transporting him to Albuquerque, which I guess is like the biggest town near them. So,
they're taking her to the trauma center, so she's following behind them in the car with the
sheriff.
Blue Eyes cop. Yeah, the sheriff.
Neil McDonough.
He's
like, he played in like Timeline, and he's, I don't know, he's good. He's a good actor. Yeah. And then you're seeing like the Hitcher's in the back, and he's looking like in a staring contest with the one guard they put back there. It shows behind his back he's meddling with the handcuffs and
breaks his thumb to get out.
Yeah, breaks his thumb, and this is like the next bloodiest part, I guess you could say.
It's my favorite kill of the whole movie. The one that happens in the back of this truck.
I mean, it starts off with him still trying to get the fucking cuffs off, and blood starts gushing out of his fucking hands. And once he gets that off, though, he opens up the cuff and then just slices the dude's throat with the cuff or whatever, and it starts bleeding everywhere. It's actually pretty. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Kill.
I like it.
I mean, then the two other officers starting to realize, so he starts he gets a gun and starts shooting them, and the car flips over, and the one cop, the sheriff in the back, is like, "Oh shit, we know what's going on." And like, there's an oncoming car, has to swerve, and then it like runs into the sheriff's car, which pins the sheriff, with his leg. And Sophia Bush, Grace, she's just like, "Fuck this, I'm not gonna deal with this shit anymore." So she grabs his gun and goes towards the police cargo van, the prisoner transfer van. And she's like, "I'm just gonna cap this motherfucker right here." So she opens the door. She doesn't see anybody, so she starts to get in. Then boom, guess what? He's there and locks her in. And they do the trope of shooting gas on the road, which sparks the gas and sets things on fire, and that fucking van blows up. Technically, right?
Yeah.
And the writer notices the sheriff's there, so he's walking over with a gun. And before he's about to execute, and after this big explosion happens, somehow Grace walks out of the van with a big ass shotgun, And the writer executes the sheriff, and then he just starts walking along the road, and Grace has this huge shotgun. She's like walking behind him, like looking at him, like shoots him in the back, which somehow only like knocks him like off his step a little bit.
He's wearing a bulletproof, but it wouldn't have. Like, I think he would have been down.
that was like a. That's like, it was like a standard shotgun. It was a 12 gauge or whatever. Right, 12 gauge or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the one they trained me on for the prison.
It's
pretty
12
forceful.
or 10. Yeah.
It's either forceful. So it should have just knocked him off more than just a step, but he's the badass killer, so we have to show how badass. Then he turns around and he's all like, "You're not gonna do it," or whatever, and she's like, "I'm not scared of you anymore," and then fucking shoots him in the face.
She actually says, he says, "It feels good, doesn't it?" in reference to killing people. And she says, "I don't feel anything."
That's right, I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
Boom!
And so the trope of the lone girl, the only one standing at the end of the horror movie, happens. I'm pretty sure it just ends right there. I'm sure there's a song. Yeah,
there's some song. It's like some like non-known song at this point. I don't remember what the hell it was. And, credits roll. So, that was The Hitcher from 2007, the remake. So what were your thoughts?
I'll say it again. I think it's a good beginner horror movie. Like, if you're not sure you like horror movies, or if you want to get into them but can't really take the blood, you could probably start out with this one. For my own personal collection, probably never gonna watch it again, gonna be honest with you. Or maybe I'll get real drunk and watch it or something. It does not have a high gore factor, which is a must for me. It must have gore. She loves the gore. There are a total of 16 confirmed on-screen deaths, probably more with the car wreck. Huh? Yeah, because, some car wrecks happen, but you don't know if those people die.
That's true.
1 rabbit kill, 1 dragonfly kill.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the dragonfly.
Yeah, it smacks in there.
Then another CGI animal, that smacks in the fucking windshield.
The CGI was just god-awful. But the makeup and the special effects for the killing, those were good.
This is 2007, so it was during this time where they started remaking all these old horror films. I think the same producers of, like, the Jessica Biel Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake came out around this time, too. So I think they were just trying to pour some money into it, but I don't think there was a big pull for this remake specifically. I actually haven't seen the old 80s version. So I don't know if it's any good, I don't know why this film got remade, period, but, I think it's an alright horror film, it's something, it's like background noise to put on if you ever just want to, like, watch something and be doing other things at the same time.
But there's not a lot of dialogue, so you don't really have to.
There's not a lot of good dialogue.
Yeah,
either.
The dialogue's all bad. It's very, very bad.
All right, so we're going to come to the segment of our show which I don't think I've told you about yet, but
No.
we're going to do the double bill. All right, so the double bill essentially means what other movie would you watch with this movie? You know, either first or second. It's like a marathon. Like you would go see like a double feature. You know, but a double bill. So what movie would you pair with this movie?
Oh, no. Do you have a movie? It's going to take me a second to think of it.
All right, so my double bill, I'm pretty sure I am going to pair this with The Hills Have Eyes remake.
Why would you put such a wonderful movie with this? Would you put it before or after?
After. I would watch The Hitcher first and then The Hills Have Eyes. Because it came out around the same time, you know, and it was the same part of this whole fucking remake thing, right? They're both set in, like, desert areas, you know? One starts off with a little blood, horrible dialogue, and a pretty girl. And the next one, it's just, like, fucking cannibals and crazy blood and fucking rape and shit like that. I don't know. I just think it would be a good pairing for me. You know, like, it starts off soft, you know, even though I can just go full hardcore the whole time. But it starts off soft, you know. And then I would throw in The Hills Have Eyes and just be like, yeah, let's go to town.
All right, fair enough. I think one movie I kept thinking of, like it kept reminding me of it the whole time I was watching The Hitcher. I think, watch The Hitcher first, and then you're going to hate me. I don't remember the name of it. But it's these two guys, I think, road tripping in a car. There might have been a girl with it. Joyride.
With
that
Paul
one.
Walker
Yes.
and Steve Zahn.
Yes, exactly.
That is a good pairing. I even forgot about that film. We might have to review that film on this podcast. But Joyride's a good one, you know, about the two brothers road tripping and then like a crazy ass semi driver trying to kill them throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, it's
Candy cane.
Yeah, it reminds me, like, it's almost a better version of The Hitcher. There's a lot of differences.
It's a less gorier version, though, if you think about it.
It is, but it's better.
Yeah,
it's scarier.
The characters are better.
You get involved in the story more, yeah.
Lily Sobilski's hotter.
Ooh. I mean, true, though.
You have Steve Zahn and Paul Walker, right? So Steve Zahn, you got a funny character, and
Paul Walker,
I love
a
Paul
legend.
Walker back in the day. Like, I mean,
yes.
It's still great. So rest in peace.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's actually a great one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, do you have anything else you want to say about The Hitcher or your double bill or anything?
I just want to remind you all that you can't milk a fucking donkey. You know what I'm saying?
All right. We can't milk a fucking donkey. You know what I'm saying? All right. So that is the Smiths Grove Sanatorium radio show. I am Zoe.
I'm Gabby.
And you guys have a good night.